Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of Mormon Talk Live. Mormonism Talk Live. I keep forgetting what my title is for this thing. We're welcoming any and all people who come on. This is Real Talk Mormonism, where we talk all things Mormon. You are a member, whether you're a critic, whether you're a true believer. Come on down. Donna, it looks like you're the first person up. We need you to join on the live stream. All you need to do is follow the link that's in the description, and you can certainly join us. This is a call-in show. I want to make sure that we've got the correct link here out there. I'm going to copy this link here and make sure that it's in my banners here. Let's scroll across the bottom, add the banner. Let's see here. There's the banner. There's the link on how to join the show. If anybody out there wants to come in, we'd be happy to host you. And we're waiting for people to join up. If not, I'm going to be working on a project here over to the side. It's just a working group here. And I'm working on editing a podcast. So if people aren't around, I will finish up editing my podcast, and that's no problem. But if anybody wants to talk to me, Stump the Chump, bring all of your questions. I'd be happy to engage with anyone for sure. Let me make sure we got the link in here. Let's see here. I'm working on a podcast to share. But if anybody out there, I'll be very happy to hear from you. You got to jump in on me. And Josiah, he just has the absolute best takes. And he talks about temples here. And I think it's really prescient. I would want to play 3 minutes of him. If you're not subscribed to him, he is really, really, he's really one of he's really one of my favorites. So let's hear what he has to say. Favorite. So let's hear what he has. He's really one of my favorites. So he is really. If you're not subscribed to him, he's really one of my favorites. So let's hear what he has to say about the temples and the value that people place on them. And that's going to be it for us on temples. Temples
is the problem. I'm glad you. Is the problem. I'm glad you brought it up so we can talk about it. I'm going to be a little bit more frank than I usually am. I wish it didn't cut off the bottom that said, while we value temples more than anything. Yeah, that's the problem. You value these great and spacious buildings filled with gold and with silver and with fine twined linens more than you value people. There are people today who need help right now. People who are hungry, who are homeless, who are broke with medical debt, who have any number of problems right now that they need help with right now. What good do temples do for them? Absolutely nothing. What good do the temples do for the world? Oh, the church will tell you that they look pretty. Oh, they better look pretty for all the money that they spent on them. But yeah, they'll talk up how beautiful that they look, how they make a neighborhood look better. You can even go sit on their luscious green lawns. They will talk up their well-kept grounds. Yeah, that's doing a whole lot of good for the world, isn't it? And then the other thing that they'll talk up all the time is how they raise property values for the properties surrounding them. Oh, good. I was just barely able.
Hey, it looks like we've got our first victim here. Donna, how's it going? What Mormon thing is on your mind tonight?
I'm going to get rid of my background stuff here.
You're good. What Mormon thing's on your mind tonight?
Well, I'm actually a ex-Jehovah Witness.
Okay.
And I find that we're cousins, sort of.
Sure.
Although I feel like that most Mormons have a better education because we were not encouraged to go to school.
But, Jehovah's Witnesses are definitely not encouraged for schooling, that's for sure. And Mormons, on the other hand, definitely are.
Exactly.
At least men are, for sure. Women, especially back in the 70s, back in the 80s, the talks from, especially from people like Spencer Kimball, who was one of our prophets, Ezra Taft Benson, who was also one, said that women needed to stay at home. In fact, there was certain talks that were in our LDS General Conference that said, women, come home. You're needed at home to raise children. And if you're in the workplace,
Yes.
you're taking jobs away from men. So yes, education definitely, I went to Brigham Young University. I taught there for a number of years. The motto of Brigham Young University, which is the church's flagship, is the glory of God is intelligence. So we're supposed to get as much education as you can, especially if you're a man.
Right. Well, how I got interested, of course, at my age, you should know that, like most people my age, my first introduction to the Mormons, to LDS, was through the Osmonds, and I had, and I had my cousin had all of their albums and stuff, but I only had a couple of them. But I did get the one that was the last one. It was called The Plan, and I knew from the words of those songs that they believed that we could be as God was, because that was in one of the songs. And so I knew that it was a different doctrine. And I got that, of course, I was a different doctrine. And but then later, because I didn't really realize it was a doomsday quote religion, because Jehovah Witnesses is. Exactly, yeah. And so whenever the case happened with Lori Vallow, and the kids were missing, and they said, well, somebody said, well, Armageddon or tribulation or time of the end or just before Jesus comes, whatever, will be so hard on people that you might be better off dead and just be resurrected. And I've heard that said before. And so whenever I heard that Lori Vallow had said that, I got a deja vu feeling. And of course I wanted to dig deeper and find out what was going on. And of course we want to educate on other people so that they don't get involved in these things. But it's really hard. And I know that the way that y'all, the shunning and stuff, is different with the Mormons than it is with Jehovah's Witnesses. It is for real.
What do you call this? What is the shining? Oh, shunning. Oh,
shunning.
Yeah,
oh
shunning.
My gosh.
Well, yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses is a lot more formalized in the shunning than it is with Latter-day Saints. Now, people, depending on your family, it depends on how much you can be shunned. There's definitely a soft shunning, but if you ask Elder Holland, who was one of the apostles, he claims that in his famous BBC interview in 2012 with Mr. Sweeney, he claims that the Latter-day Saints don't practice shunning as a formalized doctrine, although it definitely can happen from parents. But it's nothing like what I know about Jehovah's Witnesses.
Well, see, recently they're saying that they're softening it, but really what they're doing is they're like putting you on the spot. If you've been like shunned in the past, they'll come to you and say, hey, don't you want to come back? And if you don't say, yeah, I want to come back, then you're going to get hard shunned. So it's really, they haven't changed anything. And two, see, I live with my mother, and I'm talking real quiet because she's 91, but she can hear good. And she is one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And if I'm not careful, the brothers would tell her that she could not live with me. And so I do have to tiptoe around.
That's absolutely crazy. Let me play this clip for you that talks about whether Mormons practice shunning or not here, and let's get this view on this.
Remember my last short where Jeffrey R. Holland said,
does the Mormon church shun people who leave?
No, of course we don't. We don't use that word, and we don't know that practice.
Well, avoid those who would tear down your faith. Faith killers are to be shunned. The seeds which they plant in the hearts and minds of men grow like cancer and eat away the spirit.
Now, I'm not saying that Jeffrey R. Holland is lying here. He may have made a sincere statement in the full belief that the word shun is not used by the LDS Church, and shunning is not practiced. However, it has been explicitly advocated by at least one general authority, and as you saw in my last short, shunning has been encouraged without being called such by current Apostle D. Todd Christofferson.
Relationships may be interrupted, and according to the circumstances, even support or tolerance at times suspended.
Let me know if you have any personal experience with Mormon shunning in the comments.
Yeah, so there seems to be some controversy because Elder Holland said that we don't do it, but then D. Todd Christofferson said that we do it, and that other general authority said that we do as well. So it's not quite as codified as Jehovah's Witnesses, I think, but it still definitely does happen.
And it causes you to have to live a double life, sort of, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, my mother's 91 and I have to take care of her. I don't want to put her in a nursing home. Nobody else is going to do it, you know?
Yeah, it definitely does. Now, the current president of the church, now that you're talking more about that, Don, I appreciate you coming on. You know, the current president of the church 2 general conferences ago talked about potentially shunning. Wait a minute. Colt says he's not seen any video. Do you got no video? Do you got video here, Harold? Hold on. You can see me, right? Can you see me, Donna?
I can see you.
Yeah, well, let's play this other clip here by the president of the church here 2 general conference ago. He talked about something that you could consider to be shunning. I want to play this for you because he made this very interesting claim that said, never take counsel from those who don't believe. And that could be interpreted as shunning. Let's play this for you and get your reaction to this too. Let's play this. This is the president of the church, Russell M. Nelson, 2 general conferences ago. And the general conference in the LDS vernacular is the big conference for the year. It's like a world conference.
As you think celestial, you will view trials and opposition in a new light. When someone you love attacks truth, think celestial and don't question your testimony. The Apostle Paul prophesied that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. There is no end to the adversary's deceptions. Please be prepared. Never take counsel from those who do not believe. Seek guidance from voices you can trust, from prophets, seers, and revelators, and from the whisperings of the Holy Ghost, who will show unto you the things what ye should do. Please do the spiritual work to increase your capacity to receive personal revelation.
Okay, let me ask you this, Donna. When you hear the president of the church say, never take counsel from those who don't believe, what kind of vibe, as an outsider, when you hear that, what does it make you think?
That they should only listen to the brethren. They should only listen to the people who are in good standing as well. Not just but in good standing.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I get from that's a very difficult practice to reconcile with because, you know, if you never take counsel from those who don't believe, well, what about if you go down to your proctologist and you need to have him examine you? Well, what if he's not a member of the church? What are you supposed to do then? You know, are we literally supposed to take that into every single aspect of our life? If we go to get our car filled up with gas, are we supposed to ask the attendant, you know, do you believe in Mormonism? Go ahead.
If a person is like living in an area, maybe if you lived in Salt Lake City or Idaho or someplace, and all the doctors and all the people were, you know, it might be a little easier to do that, you know, to only listen to people who are. But I do understand what they're saying, and they're just it makes you not trust anybody unless they're, in your religion. They have to be in your religion, but not only that. Sometimes you trust them too much because you think that that's the only ones you can trust.
Yes,
And,
it definitely gives you an us versus them mentality. And, you know, like you said, maybe 30 years ago when Utah was 70%, even 80% Mormon, you know, that might have been able to work. But now, you know, even in Utah, I don't live in Utah, but even in Utah now, only 42% of people affiliate themselves with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and even less than that go to church. If you only restrict all of your conversations taking counsel, does that mean if you go to your lawyer, that you can't have your lawyer give you advice unless they're a true believing Mormon. I mean, you got to ask some people for their temple recommends and for their Mormon, their card to make sure that you can't get any counsel. Where does this end? Does that mean that we can't have marital counseling with someone who's not a member? The implications of this are very diabolical. And think about, you have a mixed faith relationship. Let's say that somebody loses their faith, the other person still goes to church. Are you then not supposed to listen at all to your husband or to your wife? You're just supposed to never take counsel with them. It's dividing people in a very divisive manner.
Yes, it absolutely will cause a divorce if they, feel like that they can't talk amongst themselves. And it happens quite often that way. And two, because the person thinks that the person is being taken over by a devil or whatever, it's not enough that that you're good. You have to believe it. Maybe it is to be a Mormon, and I think it is. You can be culturally a Mormon, but if I was to say to, they'll say, well, why don't you go anymore? Well, it's just, if I said that I just didn't believe it, well, I could come near saying that I was a murderer. That would be easier for them to take, for me to say, I don't believe it. It's not true.
That's crazy that you mentioned that. And you talked about Lori Vallow earlier, and that was kind of a similar sentiment here because she was an active Latter-day Saint. If you ever watched the series Sins of Our Mother here, Lori Vallow, who was just sentenced a short time ago to killing both of her children and also to being an accomplice to her husband's killing of his ex-wife. She was a Mormon. She went to the temple even just right up until the very end.
Oh,
and
yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy what can happen. You talked about that apocalyptic mindset. You really see with Lori Vallow and her family, that apocalyptic mindset being taken to the logical conclusion. And there can be some really scary ramifications for believing that, God speaks to you and that you have divine communication from these heavenly beings. Where does that end? And what can be the results of that? A lot of harm can happen.
Okay, this is something I'm a moderator for a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is run by Lori Vallow's niece. Cresha K. Easton is Charles Vallow's niece that got murdered. Cresha K. Easton is Kay Woodcock's daughter, and she didn't even know her Uncle Charles was a Mormon. And, well, in fact, she said the only way she heard anything about it is sometimes she was, somebody said something about ancestry in the family or something like that. They were like doing family history or something. But Cresha did not know that her uncle was a Mormon because he was raised Catholic, and he married Lori and became an LDS. And he really believed it and wanted to do right. Because even after all the stuff he saw his wife doing, like having an affair with Chad Daybell and all this, he was going to start his life over. The day before he was murdered by Lori and her brother Alex, he got on a LDS dating website and was going to date another LDS lady. So,
nobody was ever held accountable for his death, though, right? Nobody was ever held accountable for his death.
Not yet. Well, right now in Arizona, Mariposa County, in February, it's supposed to go to trial. The murder of Charles Vallow is supposed to be adjudicated, and Lori is standing trial, and also for the attempted murder of her niece's husband. But there's other people who knew what was going on. There are other people who should stand trial. And Cresha believes, that's Charles's niece, she believes that this is going to happen again, that these murders and this kind of situation will repeat itself unless people really get to the root of it. And Cresha's been digging deep. Like I said, we were behind because we didn't know anything about Mormons, LDS. We've been digging about the second anointing. I have listened to way more talks than anybody should ever listen to.
It's amazing
and they're boring.
You listening to that.
Oh my gosh. And I've seen more Mormon stories probably than you have. And
Well, it's very interesting that nobody has absolutely been held accountable whatsoever for Charles Vallow's death, and perhaps they will be. And that it definitely seems like there was some complicity there. And it's amazing that you're watching videos about the second anointing. What draws you into Mormonism? Why are you interested in this? Is it just because of the associations of the YouTube channel you're a moderator for, or what's the draw?
Oh, I was interested in it before that happened because of the doomsday part of it. Because I was raised, every time I got pregnant my whole life, my mother was hysterical because she was afraid that Armageddon or the end of times would come while the baby was still in a bottle and I couldn't get milk or something. So, I mean, it's like PTSD from the whole thing. So I was interested in it. But I'm just going to say, we don't have no handshakes over here that I know or no special underwear. If there is special underwear and handshakes, I never got high enough to learn them.
So you have a background in the church where you were never a member of the church, right?
No, I was a Jehovah Witness.
Right,
That's what I said.
You never got high enough. Okay.
No, but I have studied more about it this past year. I could tell you Joseph Smith and the whole whatever, the black plates, all of it. And it's very interesting. And it's very deep, and it's too much. It is too much. It's extra.
There's a lot of history there. Before we let you go there, Donna, what is the name of your YouTube channel? Let's pull it up and check it out. What is the name of it?
It's Difficult Research. Okay, it's actually I'm a moderator. It's not mine. Difficult Research.
With Krisha Easton. Okay.
Krisha K. Easton. That's Charles Vallow's niece. And Lori Vallow is her aunt. And she's never been interviewed by any of these people. All of these people interviewing, Lori's this one, Lori's that, but nobody really wants to talk to Krisha. It's because Krisha's digging deep and she wants to know what the hell happened. We want to know what happened. We want to know why they would cut somebody up and burn them up. We believe that is a ritual. We believe that those children were murdered in a ritual.
Yeah. Definitely. They thought that they were zombies and they believed in an apocalyptic mindset. Very harmful stuff. And this is the most important thing, honestly, about all this for me, at least, Donna, is that the leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon leadership, has in no way or shape or form condemned this entire movement that's based on, the mark of the Mark Harrison. What's the name of that book there? What's the
Visions of Glory?
Yeah, the Visions of the Tom Harrison's, the Visions of Glory.
Harrison.
We haven't seen, Tom Harrison, the Visions of Glory. We haven't seen the Mormon leadership come down and say, folks, listen, I know some of you out there read this stuff, and I know some of you think, that there's these zombies and spirits, because there's a lot of them, and we just want to condemn it. There's no such thing as any of this mumbo jumbo. They have been totally silent on these things, and so forth. Therefore, they can continue on. You know what I mean?
Yes, because Charles knew that. Charles went to the bishop, and he said to the bishop, she's talking all this crazy stuff, and he wanted the bishop to talk to her. Her family knew that she needed to talk to the bishop, but they didn't want her to get in trouble with the church. She needed to be in trouble with the church.
Okay, explain that one more time here. Can you say that one more time? I'm not sure I necessarily caught that. Say that again.
Charles Vallow wanted, what he was trying to do was to get his wife in a meeting with the bishop and the people to say, you can't be reading about no visions of glory and stop having an affair, and this is your husband. He was hoping that the bishop could talk some sense into his wife. But the bishop knew about it and didn't do anything. He was there with the police.
Why would that be? Do you imagine?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I hope some of those questions will be answered in Arizona. I really hope that bishop will be called as a witness.
A lot of these things, unfortunately, what we've seen in Arizona and other times is that they have confessional rights, and therefore they clam up, and then the church brings in the lawyers, and it's hard to get the actual truth to come out. That's a lot of times what we've seen. Which one of these shorts here? Let's watch one of these shorts from Difficult Research. Which one do you recommend here?
Let's see. Go down a little further because she puts all these together. Or maybe that me telling that wasn't an NDA. NDE. I don't know what that one is. Like the fourth from the top. Okay, just any of them. I really don't know.
Okay.
So Ryan Fisher, who has been doing some videos with Nuance Ho, and I actually covered Ryan Fisher, and he talks about
for some reason that's not playing very well. Let's try this again here. Hold on.
Okay.
How would you?
I'm subscribing right away here, by the way.
Okay. You check us out and you help us to get the word out that we want it to be better. We don't want people taking their kids off someplace and killing them. Thank you for talking to me.
Yeah, for sure. This is the
And
All Things Mormonism, Real Talk Mormonism. You can talk about any subject that you want. This is a creepy, creepy video. Wow, very scary. And she was very unrepentant about the entire thing, too. She had no remorse whatsoever. And one of the reasons for that is because she thought that God was the one who told her to do all these things. And so therefore, why would you have any remorse if you believe that a psychopathic invisible dictator has told you to do something? She felt that she was completely justified. And if you think about what she said in her, when she got a chance to make the statement, she basically, what we call in Mormon parlance is bear your testimony, which means tell your truth. And her testimony sounded just like a regular Mormon testimony, just like the kind you would hear on Sunday. I know her beliefs were radical, but she wasn't that far off of the Mormon Orthodox path. All you have to do is just flip that switch just a little bit farther in your head, and you can go from any time that you subscribe to the idea that God is giving me special messages that only I can hear, and that I have somebody up there who's telling me what to do, and that whatever he tells me is right. All you have to do is just go flip a small switch, and all of a sudden that can turn into something that is extremely harmful. There's no way to differentiate between God telling you to be kind to your neighbor and God telling you to kill your neighbor.
Wow. Very, very scary.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on to the Real Talk Mormonism. I appreciate that. For everybody out there, Difficult Research, that looks like a fascinating channel. We do cover Lori Vallow here on the Mormon News Roundup. I really appreciate you dropping by, Donna. Thanks so much.
We thank you for covering it too.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Okay, well, there was one question that came into the live chat earlier that I wanted to cover, and that was from Gayla Gray. I have a question. I've heard that the only people having sex are in the next life are the ones in the celestial kingdom. Is that true? And that's an old Mormon doctrine that certainly is, I would say that there's a lot of truth into it. In fact, in the 2 general conferences ago, President Nelson actually talked a little bit about that, where he said, let me pull that up for you. He talked about what kind of body that you're getting resurrected with will depend on how you live in this life. Let me see if I can find that clip for you. Choosing a body, choose which body and with whom you will be from all eternity. Let's play this for you. I do have it pulled up. And this will definitely answer your question here, Agala, I think.
Invite you to adopt the practice of thinking celestial. Far too many people live as though this life is all there is. However, your choices today will determine 3 things: where you will live throughout all eternity, the kind of body with which you will be resurrected, and those with whom you will live forever.
Okay, so that's the important thing here, Agala, is that which body you will be resurrected. That's really a dog whistle here for an old doctrine that was really codified by Joseph Fielding Smith, which is one of the church's most important theologians, and he was the 10th president of the church in the early 1970s. And he wrote the books like Way to Perfection and Doctrines of Salvation. Very important figure here. And this is where we get the idea of a celestial kingdom smoothie, meaning that if you don't follow President Nelson, if you happen to drink coffee, and if you don't pay tithing to the corporation of the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in the next life, your genitals will be removed. So that's what he's saying. Your choice is which body you're going to be resurrected with. A telestial body is not capable, according to the doctrines of Joseph Fielding Smith, and those have never been contradicted. Your body will not have the ability to reproduce in the next life. And of course, a lot of the saints believe in a physical resurrection. So yes, the idea of the powers of procreation continuing on into the next life, the continuation of seeds, is definitely Mormon doctrine. So I hope that answers your question. I'm trying to see if anybody else can come on in. I'd appreciate that. So let's see here. Let's to answer your question here. This is an amusing take here that I'm trying to pull up here. It's called defending the TK smoothie. So that's the joke here: is you won't have genitals in the next life, and this really comes back, like I said, to the doctrines of salvation. This is not church official canonized doctrine, but it is close to church doctrine as you can possibly get. Joseph Fielding Smith was one of the church's greatest theologians, and what he said basically went. So let's read that particular statement here to answer your question. In the telestial and terrestrial kingdoms, which are the two lower kingdoms in the next life, there will be changes in the body and limitations. Some of the functions in the celestial body will not appear in the terrestrial body, neither in the telestial body, and the power of procreation will be removed. I take it that men and women will, in these kingdoms, be neither man nor woman, merely immortal beings having received the resurrection. So, like he said, the powers of procreation will be removed. Well, that's taking you back to you're going to be a Ken doll in the next life. Your genitals will be removed if you did not walk the covenant path like you should have. So, yes, I think that there is a good deal of truth behind that teaching. Now, this is not technically official church doctrine, but it is certainly something that it has been taught and has never been repudiated. That's the most important thing here. So I hope that answers your question. Now, if anybody else doesn't have any questions, I'm going to continue. I had a working project here. I'm hoping that people will come on. This is Real Talk Mormonism, live calls, conversations on StreamYard about anything Mormon related whatsoever. You can stump the chump. You can tell me what you really think about my programming. This is your chance. I'd be happy to take your questions, happy to take any and all callers. Controversial opinions, that's fine. And Harold says, TK smoothies are also seemed confusing to me. I thought souls are non-corporeal in heaven. No. You know, at the beginning of the Restoration, Joseph Smith was really a Trinitarian. And he said, in fact, in the Lectures on Faith in number 5, that God is a spirit. In fact, in the afterlife, everybody was, that God is a spirit. But when he wrote the Book of Mormon in the Book of Alma, he said that let me see if I can pull that up. Frame and joint restored in Alma. In Alma chapter 40, the doctrine got a little bit more codified here. Let me see if I can pull this up here for you. It's Alma chapter 40, verse 23. And this is the idea of your soul is different than the body. There's a soul, and then there's a body, but later on in Mormon theology, the soul became synonymous with the spirit and the body. But at this time in Mormon theology, the soul is actually the spirit. So these things changed over time because the Book of Mormon was printed in 1830. But at any rate, Alma in chapter 40, he says, the soul shall be restored to the body, and the body to the soul, yea, every limb and joint shall be restored to its body, yea, even a hair of the head shall not be lost, but all things shall be restored to their proper and perfect frame. And there will be a restoration of all things that are brought about by the mouths of the prophet. So I don't know if you want to absolutely interpret that as a corporeal resurrection, but later theology certainly solidified that in heaven, everyone will receive a resurrection. It will be considered universal. But those who don't those who don't know the, as Donna said, the secret signs and handshakes, those who don't know their new name, those who have not been through the temple endowment will not be clothed with power and great glory, and they will not have their proper body parts. Now, the real question is whether there is the continuation of seeds in all three of the celestial kingdoms, all three of the parts of the celestial kingdom. I don't have the answer to that. But I have heard that it is only the highest of the three kingdoms in the celestial kingdom that you can actually have the continuation of seeds, aka celestial sex. I don't know the answer to that. Waiting for the next person to come on here. This is going to be a pretty boring stream without people coming on. My only backup project is to continue this project that I was working on for Maven and myself.
To buy a home for myself. I was lucky because pretty much anyone who doesn't own a home now will never be able to buy a home for themselves in the future because they're just too expensive. So we were lucky enough to get a home with a couple extra bedrooms so that our kids can just live with us forever in the future with their partners and their families. We'll just have our own little encanto here because we know that they don't stand a chance at ever being able to buy a home for themselves because of greedy corporations like the church who are hell-bent on raising their own property values, who are hell-bent on making more money for themselves. Thank you. My children will pay the price for that. Meanwhile, the church is sitting on a Mount Everest of money. It's hard to even comprehend how much money the church has. And from my understanding, they're not allowed to use this money other than for church and charity. So what are they using it for? Nothing. It's a rainy day fund, a rainy millennium fund, really, other than building temples. Yeah, thanks. That's much appreciated. You talk about the mission of the church. The trifold mission of the church: proclaim the gospel, perfect the saints, redeem the dead. I hear nothing about serving people, helping people who need help today. You know, what Jesus was all about? Jesus, speaking of which, you know, he's going to come back according to your doctrine. And then you have 1,000 years to do one thing. Do you remember what that one thing is that you're going to be doing for 1,000 years?
Yes.
Temple work. Sounds boring as hell to me, but that's what your doctrine says. You have 1,000 years to get it done. It will get done. It doesn't need to be done today. What needs help with today is people.
Somebody is telling me that the proper show notes is not in the description. Let me double check this again here. I guess I'm again Bush League here. I have the actual link there in the bottom of the show here. So I don't know what's going on here as far as what the issue is here. So I apologize for that. Let me look at this again one more time. The link here is showing 5 NDY. Yep. The link is showing according to my what I see. That I'm showing the link here. Let's just try to find the link directly here. Let's see here. Yeah, it's all here. It's fine. Everything is showing up just as exactly like it should. Let's continue on. I want to hear more from Ryan.
So when the church starts to use their temples for good, to actually do something of value for people today, then I might start to care about them. But until then, yeah, you're right. I give zero value to temples. Changed my mind.
I definitely don't think that I can change Ryan's mind about that for sure. So what we saw, and I didn't cherry pick the articles this week, Maven. I definitely, you're going to see some of the sausage getting made here as far as me getting something lined up for the show. If anybody wants to come on, I'm happy to cover it, but Brian's sure of millions of dollars. Is it objectively fair to say that for this week that the church is valuing buildings over people in the vast majority of the way that it interacts with the world?
I did not just
of the way that it interacts with the world.
Not just this week, but I would say for a very long time, that would be an accurate statement.
For these communities to say, hey, don't worry, when we put in a temple, your property values are going.
The temple is finished. But I think besides the fact that there's, not just
Hey, looks like somebody, a Roused member, is here to check these things out. Hey, glad that you're fans. I need people to come on to the show. Otherwise, we won't have a show. So please follow the link and come on down.
no benefit to the community for temples. And in fact, I think we're seeing a negative benefit. There's also no benefit for the members. And they try to pretend that there is, that it makes you feel peaceful. It helps your family. Like if you've got family issues in your marriage, go to the temple. You'll receive guidance from the Spirit. Or you've got a wayward child, go to the temple. You'll get some guidance on that. But it just further divides. But it
I don't know if my computer can handle this kind of the live stream and trying to edit a podcast. I don't think it's going to be able to handle it. Yeah. Yeah, freezing up just a little bit here. I need people to come onto the show. I don't think I can edit this at the same time that I'm trying to do too difficult here. It's too much of a computer. It's sapping too much of my resources.
the widows might report, and if not, it's elsewhere. But and this is also, I think, a kind of a known secret among members of the church high enough up to have worked in temple presidencies and know about that, or even just work in the temple, honestly, because I think it's getting to the point where it's really blatant. But the blatant, but ordinances are being done on repeat. So there are very few new. There are very few being done on repeat. There are very few new names found in genealogical records for work to be done for. So there's a constant. So records for work to be done for. There's a constant rotation of these names where ordinances are being performed for them over and over and over again. So they're not even doing that successfully. They're not even redeeming any new dead. It's just redeeming the same dead over and over and over. So it's a counter. So it's a over and over and over. It's a catastrophic waste.
Now, this podcast is not going to be very interesting.
It's a catastrophic.
I gotta have people come on. I'm losing all my audience, but that's okay. I'm here for anybody who wants to come on and talk to me.
It's a catastrophic waste.
Now, I want to say one thing that maybe Ryan was not quite aware of, and that's back in President Monson's era, he added a fourth mission to the church, and now it's the caring for those in need. I'm not sure if Ryan knew about that or not, but there is fourfold mission. But what we've seen is the amount of money, and you mentioned the Widows Might report, according to the best available data, for every $122 that the church puts in an investment fund, the church allegedly does $1 of humanitarian giving. So again, we see the priorities of the church is in buildings and in things, and not in human suffering, and not in lifting up the hands that hang down, strengthening the feeble knees, visiting the sick and the afflicted, or taking care of the widow. What we see the church taking care of is its bottom line, its total valuation, and that continues to grow at an exponential rate. There's no question about that. Now, our last article here for the week here. Now, no question about that. Now, our last article here for the week here is, I thought it'd be very interesting for my computer is struggling a little bit to keep up with all this. I thought it would be here for you because it's the new movie that's come out. I don't know if you're following this here, Maven, but it's Sister Missionaries tracked into a horror house in upcoming film that's called Heretic. And I know that you served a mission. How many years ago was that?
Oh, goodness. More than 10 years now. I think we're coming up at, I'll say that.
I'm not trying to trigger you, although. Yeah. So, yeah, this is
about 15. I think.
Okay. I'm not trying to trigger you, although. Yeah. So, yeah, this is
about 15. I think we're about 15 years. Yeah. So
yeah, it's Heretic here. It's separate.
So
yeah, it's Heretic.
Yeah.
It's Heretic here. It's set for theatrical release here just in a couple of weeks. How do you feel about a premise about sister missionaries in particular tracking into a home in which someone, an evildoer, may do them harm? How do you feel about the entire premise of the movie?
I like that they're bringing sister missionaries in because, of course, almost unequivocally in the past, almost unequivocally in the past, anything about missionaries would be about males, and males and male missionaries are in just as much danger, if not in some ways more, because I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe for I don't know. Maybe for. Because I don't know, maybe for different reasons. I think that people are less likely to maybe pull a gun on sister missionaries or bring out a baseball bat or something like that. But there's still, I guess it's maybe different types of, but there's still something like that. But I guess it's maybe different types of danger, where maybe more physical for males, and then maybe more maybe more assault for females. So anyway, I'm glad that there were so many people that females. So there were so many people that didn't even know that women could serve missions when I served a mission. Like that was something that was shared a lot, was shock and surprise that there were sister missionaries out doing this. And so so that's one thing. But then there's so many times missions are dangerous, and the church really, through its doctrine and teachings and families and the missionaries themselves, have a really, I think, a false sense of bravado and protection. And that's really, I think, purposely engendered, which makes missionaries more vulnerable to to potential attacks or kidnappings or things like this movie is going to premise. So yeah, I know. Premise. So yeah, I know. I feel very lucky that I never ended up in a situation where myself or a companion was harmed by another human being. But there were definitely moments where we were afraid. There's one guy, and I just remember it was in a cheap apartment complex, because obviously the cheaper ones were where more humble people were, and they were more likely to hear the gospel. That's kind of how we viewed things. And there was a guy that was so creepy, and he kept talking about Adam and Eve and populating the world. It was awful. And we were leaving. I just remember because it was just a really kind of a dingy, not well lit, narrow hallway. And I was walking backwards so that I could keep an eye on this guy. And he was just walking forward, like towards us, as we're walking backwards, literally like down the hall, just to keep an eye on this guy. And we went straight to our car. And again, I was facing him just because I didn't know what he was going to do. I thought it was creepy, and the vibes were just really, really awful. And so we got out of there. And of course, we're just like, that guy was creepy, and God protected us, you know. But there was sister missionaries in missionaries in Kosovo. I was there just for a summer. One of them had transferred out, and so it was the new companion that had come in with the sister that was already there. Were brutally attacked. They were brutally attacked. They were one had like multiple lacerations, I think with cut glass, like mostly about her head, and they were
probably not too exciting to people, but
I think they were beaten, they were cut up, they were bleeding, and they were thrown down concrete stairs, just to kind of, and left in this concrete stairwell before they were found, and help was given to them. So it's just I don't know if I'll be able to
podcast. It's going to be absolutely horrible. This entire program is predicated on people coming on StreamYard. All you have to do is literally follow the link. You'll be taken into a browser, and then you can come on. So without that, I don't have that much to do. So I can't prepare fresh content every single night for this podcast. This is supposed to be an audience-driven endeavor, but maybe it's just not working. Hard to say.
Watch this, to be honest, because I think it'll just hit a little too close to home. And I typically don't like these kinds of suspenseful movies as well. But I want to be able to watch it and talk about it, but I might just have to hear it from others, because I don't know if I from others. I don't know if I can do it. And also especially since hear it from others. And also especially since the sisters are members, if I am understanding correctly, the actresses who are playing do have
I need you to come on, Harold. Come on down. All you got to do is follow
actresses
that link.
who are playing do have that. So I think they're going to nail it, because the only thing that can kind of maybe remove me from it is if it's poorly done, which often happens with actors and actresses who aren't members of the church. They could get really close, but a lot of times they just kind of miss the mark a little bit. And so I think with they just kind of miss the mark a little bit. And so I think with the right phrases, I think with these sisters knowing the culture, I think that I'll be triggered in probably 1,000 different ways before the movie's even like 10 minutes in, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly.
Yeah.
10 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, serving a mission is an extremely dangerous endeavor to begin with. When I was a missionary, I had a gun that was pulled on me not once, but twice. And also riding bicycles on a mission is inherently more dangerous. It's just an incredibly fraught endeavor. We've had stories of people who've been hurt. I had a companion who ended up having some seizures on his mission. He went home. Would that have happened if he was back home? I don't know. There's health complications. There's people who have gotten sick. There's people who have been killed. Approximately 12 missionaries die every single year in the service of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And sister missionaries in particular can be very vulnerable in some of these situations where you're knocking on random people's door. You have no idea what that person's going through. You don't know who's on the other side. Are they sexual? Are they on the sex offenders side? Are they sexual? Are they sexual? Are they on the going through, you don't know who's on the other side. Are they on the sex offenders registry? Are they a former felon who's killed people? We don't know. Are they intent upon harm? Did they get up on the wrong side of the bed? All of these things are a huge consideration. It's a very fraught endeavor to begin with. So are you okay for watching this trailer, though? That's what I want to know. Can we play this trailer? Or
I've seen the trailer, so we can play it. Yeah.
Okay, let's check out this trailer here. Okay. Okay, let's. Okay. Well, it seems like this Trump coverage is well, guys. You know, I guess we're gonna see what's going on with this Trump coverage here. Trump injured in shooting at Pennsylvania rally that left one person dead. That's absolutely shocking. This picture is absolutely crazy. He got blood on his face. Unbelievable here. Kamala Harris denounces the senseless shooting and says she's relieved Trump was not seriously injured. Vice President was briefed on the shooting just a few minutes ago, 7 minutes ago here. Doug and I are relieved that he is not seriously injured. We are praying for him and his family. Doug is apparently Kamala Harris's husband, the first, what do they call it, the first man? We are praying for him and his family and all those who have been injured and impacted by this senseless shooting. Violence has no place in our nation, Harris wrote. Bill and Hillary Clinton say that they are thankful that Trump is safe. Former President Bill Clinton, violence has no place in America, especially in our political process. Hillary and I are thankful that Trump is safe. Heartbroken for all those who are affected by the attack at today's rally in Pennsylvania. Grateful for the swift action of the Secret Service. And district attorneys call shooting scene chaotic and say officials don't yet have identity of alleged gunman. It's really crazy right now, said Butler County District Attorney Richard Goldinger, who called the scene at Donald Trump's Pennsylvania rally chaotic. He says he doesn't know the number of people who are still currently at the scene of the incident, and the authorities do not have any information on the identity of the alleged shooter. Let's see, Butler County is located just north of Allegheny County, which is where Pittsburgh is situated. It's about 65% Republican. Biden says he has an opinion on whether shooting was an attempted assassination, but I don't have any facts. We don't know enough. I have an opinion. President Joe Biden, I don't know enough. I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. Biden said in remarks from Rehoboth Beach in Delaware on Saturday evening. I want to make sure that we have all the facts before I make some comment or any more comments. President Barack Obama, Chinese national. Mark Crispin says a Chinese national. That's fascinating. Former President Barack Obama, there's no place for political violence in our democracy. There is absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy, although we don't yet know exactly what happened. We should all be relieved that President Trump wasn't seriously hurt. I certainly am. I, for one, am. And use this moment to recommit ourselves to civility and respect in our politics. Michelle and I are wishing him a quick recovery. Everybody's weighing in here. Former presidents, everybody is. The FBI is currently on the scene in Butler after the shooting, and they will continue to work jointly with the U.S. Secret Service as the investigation moves forward. And Badass Peacemaker says we're waiting for the facts. That's all we should do. This is absolutely shocking. I cannot believe what I'm seeing here. Manhattan DA, political violence in any form is abhorrent and unacceptable. You know, these pictures, this can only, in my opinion, help Donald Trump in the polls because it's going to make him out to be the victim. And he is very good at playing the victim card. And he's very good at a persecution complex as well. And this is going to humanize him in a way. It's showing his vulnerability. I think that this actually, in a diabolical and sick way, is good for Donald Trump, assuming that he's okay, of course. But assuming that he recovers, I see this as something that could give him a couple extra votes. And this election is so close that could be the difference maker. This is absolutely crazy. Manhattan District Attorney. Political violence in any form is abhorrent and unacceptable. I commend the Secret Service on their swift response, and my thoughts and prayers are with the former president and his Trump and his family, Bragg said in a statement. And how he said, did he hold up a baby in self-defense? I don't know. Donna also said that this makes her sick. Absolutely. There's just no call for this. We're supposed to be the beacon on the hill. We're supposed to be the arsenal of democracy. We are supposed to be the shining city and the example to the rest of the world about how peaceful democracy is supposed to transpire. And to see this is absolutely stunning. You know, I wonder, I got to know what happened with the Secret Service here. What was the information that they had? Who knew it? When? How did this, first we had the Capitol insurrection on January 6th, where the people weren't prepared for that. And we had some intelligence in advance. What kind of intelligence did the Secret Service have? Was this something that could have possibly been potentially avoided, or was this totally just out of right field? That's what I want to know. New York Attorney General Letitia James also addressed the shooting, saying violence is never the answer, and that my thoughts are with former President Trump, and I'm wishing for his speedy recovery, James said on X on Saturday night. It's interesting to see when some people say that they are praying for Trump and other people are saying that their thoughts are with Trump. And I certainly think you can tell the difference between the two. And Joe Biden, again, everyone must condemn the shooting at Trump's rally, Biden says. He says everyone must condemn it. The bottom line is the Trump rally should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. I agree 100%. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's not appropriate. Everyone must condemn it. Everyone. And I certainly hope that we will see a wide variety of people condemning it. We've already seen all the former presidents. We've already seen the vice president. We've seen the current president. We've seen absolutely everyone talk about this. And I certainly hope that we will see everyone in Congress, everyone in the Senate. No one should be spiking a football at any possible time here. Absolutely reprehensible behavior. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's been since... it's been since Ronald Reagan since we really had a legit assassination attempt on a president. Badass Peacemaker said Trump was the first president to resist a peaceful transfer of power, not a justification of violence, just context. Now, I don't think that anything justifies what happened here, whether Donald Trump called for harm of other people, whether he had bad morals, whether he made bad decisions, whether he was a liar, whether he was a sexual assault. None of that matters. Okay, because none of that justifies the actions that, at least what I've seen from the pictures, there is no justification for any violence of this kind. Now, obviously, Donald Trump could have, in times past, been more responsible with his language, especially at his rallies. There was times that he called for people to get beat up during his rallies and things along those lines, but that doesn't justify. It's not a tit for tat here. That makes no difference, in my opinion. I do understand what you're saying about context here, but Biden says there's no place in America for this kind of violence. I agree. Let's see what else is happening out there. Trump. The big question for me is this an assassination there? And look at his defiant picture here. Wow. Look at that picture. Look at that. I cannot believe this. This is the United States of America, folks. And look what we have here. Trump shooting at Trump's rally is being investigated as assassination attempt. I'm getting chills here. This is absolutely unbelievable. Look at that. Trump was whisked off the stage at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania after an apparent gunshot rang through the crowd. He quickly ducked behind the podium as agents from his protective detail rushed the stage. Let's see if we can play this video. I don't know if we'll be able to play the video or not. He appears to be the target of an assassination attempt. Secret Service agents and his campaign say that he is fine, though, and a local prosecutor said the suspected gunman and at least one attendee are dead. Aha, so they got to the gunman. Trump said that the bullet pierced the upper part of his right ear. Unbelievable. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. Unbelievable.
That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that is said, take a look at what happened.
How many shots? Look at all those shots that came off. You can just hear the shots. We got to back this up and play this again. Unbelievable. It took a minute for people to really realize what was happening. Let's back this up. Unbelievable.
And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
wish this wasn't quite as choppy. I do apologize for that, but look at this. Look at this scene. People don't know what to do. The Secret Service needs to be taking charge. People are screaming. They seem to think they're looking in one direction about where the gunshots came from. All the SWAT team members here. Look at that picture. Oh my gosh. Get him off of the stage. Why is he going so slow? They need to get him out of there as fast as possible. And he's holding up the strong sign. Wow. He's so defiant. This has got to be good for his campaign. This has got to be good for him politically. Look at how strong he faced death here. Unbelievable. And Harold says, not doing well, holding back snark about how some Congress people have been calling language violent so as to censor. This is violence. This is absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And I appreciate your reference there, Howie. Yeah, I've got to watch this one more time. This is, I cannot believe what I am watching here. This is the United States of America, folks.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months.
Yeah, and a Rouse member said this will be an iconic moment forever, good or bad. This is going to be a seminal moment. I've got chills. Unbelievable. I cannot believe this. I am just dumbfounded. It's really sad.
And if you want to really see something that said,
I'm sorry that I've got some kind of a connection issue here. This is rather unfortunate here.
Take a look at what happened.
Of course, my computer, maybe I need to close some of these programs. This is probably, I've got too many programs open. Oh, yeah, that's helping a little bit. There's a couple of more shots that are like after the main body of shots. There was one more shot. I heard a Secret Service person say shooter is down. Yeah, shooter's down. They got the shooter right afterwards. You heard a Secret Service agent say shooter is down. Look how defiant Trump is. He's stunned. So I have a feeling that this is not the. I have a feeling here that this is not my computer. That there's a problem with this link. I think it's their Donald Trump assassination.
Is the most significant threat somebody who is willing to use violence, and in this case, we believe an AR-15 style rifle.
A rifle.
Willing to do so without any apparent warning. So right now, the authorities no doubt know who the shooter is. They've undoubtedly identified the person by now and are going through social media, talking to witnesses, acquaintances, relatives, friends, anyone they can find to give them a sense of what the motive might have been.
Look at that picture
the
of him down below.
Is that a lone actor who is willing to use a gun is very, very difficult to detect and to stop.
Aaron Katursky, thank you so much. As we come up on the top of the hour here at 9 p.m. in the East, I'm Whit Johnson in New York, and if you're just joining us, we are following all of these major developments after the shooting at a campaign rally. Former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, was slightly wounded in the right ear, but we're told by his campaign, by his family, that he's doing fine. Authorities say the shots were fired from a rooftop adjacent to the venue, some 200 to 300 yards away. 8 rounds fired from an AR-style rifle. That information just reported by our Aaron Katursky.
Where was the Secret Service guarding those rooftops? Come on, fellas.
The shooter was killed. Authorities say a second person, a bystander, is also dead. Also getting reports that another spectator may have been critically injured. The incident is being investigated now as a possible assassination attempt. The former president's son, Don Jr., says his father is under observation at the hospital and in good spirits. President Biden tonight coming before the cameras, condemning the incident, saying there's no place in this country for violence. The former president himself also releasing a statement moments ago, thanking the Secret Service and law enforcement for their rapid response, describing the incident, saying he heard a whizzing sound and shots. And President Biden, as we also noted, they're coming before the cameras. He was condemning the violence, saying all federal agencies are now engaged. He also tried to reach out to the former president personally to speak with him tonight. The incident all playing out before the cameras. The horrific moment here, the loud noises popping, the former president appearing to...
Yeah, aroused member. How does someone have an assault rifle in the crowd? Well, they said that he was on a rooftop nearby.
Their bodies like a human shield. Those anxious moments as everyone was waiting to see if Trump was okay.
This is the shocking moment. Chaos erupted at Donald Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Yeah, you can see him grab for his ear.
You can hear several pops.
Oh.
See the former president grabbing his ear,
Yeah.
ducking for cover behind the podium. Secret Service agents rushing the stage, surrounding Trump, shielding him, taking him down to the ground. The screaming crowd looking on in horror. A short time later, agents carefully lifting the former president up.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir. Hold on, your head is bloody.
Blood clearly seen on his face, Trump pumping his fist. Agents whisking the former president off the stage, down the stairs to a waiting armored SUV, rushing him to a local medical center.
We heard what we appeared to be gunfire coming. The former president was rushed off the stage. Right now, we're at Secret Service. He's being escorted into his vehicle. This was a chaotic moment that just played out right here in Pennsylvania. People running and rushing to the ground as they heard those apparent shots fired.
Tonight, the Trump campaign releasing a statement saying the former president is fine and being checked out at a local medical facility.
Just hours ago, this area was lined with Trump supporters. They entered that tent right there to be screened by Secret Service, going through metal detectors, their belongings detected. Now, this is the space where you have Trump supporters that are leaving, panicked and confused, as Secret Service agents rush us out of this area and back to our cars.
Tonight, the crowd still in disbelief.
Tell me what you saw and what you heard. You said that you heard the popping sounds and you got down?
Sounds. At first you think like maybe firecrackers, but it continued, and then somebody yelled, "Get down." We got down, and we huddled and we started praying.
Tonight, local officials telling ABC News those sounds were in fact gunshots, live rounds fired from outside the security perimeter. This is being investigated as an attempted assassination. And tonight, the local district attorney telling ABC News at least one person is dead and the shooter is dead as well. Tonight, President Biden addressing the nation.
I have tried to get a hold of Donald. He's with his doctors. Apparently he's doing well. I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it.
Those words from President Biden tonight saying everyone must condemn it, something that we've been hearing from politicians on both sides of the aisle. And Rachel Scott is back with us now. Rachel, you've been here since the beginning tonight. We were talking to each other during World News as the rally was just getting underway, and you've been getting these horrific stories from witnesses, and you're with another one tonight.
Yeah, we're with another group of witnesses that saw what happened. I will tell you, hours ago, this area right here was filled with Trump supporters eager, waiting to go inside of that rally. Right now, tonight, this is an area where Trump supporters are gathering. They're left with shock about what happened. Tell me what you saw inside.
Yeah, I was just about like 30 feet from Trump, and then I saw the people that had been shot, and they were bringing them down in the stands right above me, and I just didn't want to get down. I just kept standing. But I saw, I saw the man that was hit in the head, and there was a lot of blood, and I knew there was no way he was going to survive that. And then there were two of them that they brought down, but it was like real chaos and chaotic, but I didn't get down. And so it was very interesting. We were just right there. About 40.
What was going through your mind as you saw that person with tons of blood on them?
Yeah, at first I was thinking, I thought different thoughts, like maybe this was the shooter and then he committed suicide, or maybe someone shot him. That's what my first thoughts were. I didn't think about just like someone that was in the stands. Yeah, that's what I thought.
And now knowing that this is someone that was in the stands, how are you processing this?
No, I think we're all in shock. Yeah, we're in numb that this happened.
Can I say, when I heard this going on, I thought it was a firecracker. It's like with Kennedy, people thought it was a firecracker. And I looked, we were 20 yards away from Trump, and then we were 20 yards away from where I thought it was a firecracker. But then now I'm thinking maybe those were bullets that were going over our head.
Yeah.
And then they were saying, get down, get down, get down. I just wasn't processing. It took me like 2 minutes and I finally hit the deck. But I think it's just like you're in shock. And how did the guy get the gun in there? How did he get the gun?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because is this your first Trump rally?
No.
No. So I've covered a number of Trump rallies. I've been to almost every single Trump rally this cycle. You've been to a number as well. You're fully aware of the security precautions. Trump supporters, as they're making their way in, they have to go through magnetometers. Your bags are searched. Your pockets are searched as well. And so any area where you're around the former president, there is a sense of safety. Yeah. And so to have this occur, what was going through your mind as you heard gunfire, get down, get down?
I think first I was in shock, but I do think I'm drawn to some of this I tried out for the Secret Service. I passed everything, but then they said, take your glasses off. That was the end of it. So my whole life would have been changed, but I couldn't see. But I guess I like to be where the action is in some ways. So, but I mean, not this, obviously this is just horrible, just horrifying. But
Trump survived. That's good. It would have been horrible news, worse news if he had been killed. So that's good. At least we had that. But yeah, we're all in shock. Yeah, it's really something. I just got done saying every generation thinks, well, we're past that. We're not going to have any more assassination attempts, and then you have something else, and maybe that's really hard to stop.
I thought it was firecrackers.
Yeah, you thought it was firecrackers. Yeah, I mean, so many people did. Initially, when that first happened, there was a lot of confusion for everyone that was inside of that fairground near. We heard the pop, 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 pop sounds. We heard shouts of gunfire, but we did not know for sure. We were just all told to get down. And then from my understanding, it was also law enforcement that told you all to just stay down, even though the former president was already escorted, to make sure that they had the situation under control.
They kept saying, stay down, but then curiosity overcame me. After about 5 minutes, I stood up and there were like 6 or 7 men with AR-15s or whatever, whether they AK-47s or AR-15s, and they were just like hawks. They were looking around, staring at everybody, and their guns ready, and one guy looked kind of nervous. I mean, it was just, I was just kept thinking that we're going to be a part of history here, so. Yeah. But it's just it's horrible.
Bad when I got it was shot because there was so much blood and things. So he was right above me, so I thought, oh, there's no way he survived that. But, yeah, what a day.
A hard thing to witness, and I so appreciate you all taking the time to speak with me, and I'm glad that all of you are safe. Please get home safe. Again, with just this sense of disbelief, trying to process, replaying those events over and over in your head, that's what everyone here that was inside of that Trump rally is still having to contend with as they process the moments that happen, those frantic and chaotic moments of what they witnessed inside with.
Yeah, and I can't help but think there's going to be a lot of trauma after this event for all of those witnesses who are there, watch this unfold before their very eyes, and also knowing that one of their fellow supporters, somebody who was just there, part of the rally, at least one person lost their life today. Rachel Scott, and to you, we can't thank you enough for all your reporting throughout the evening. Stand by, we'll come back to you if news develops. But let's bring in John Cohen tonight, ABC News contributor, former FBI. John, there are so many questions about what happens now with this investigation. Take us through this process. Where do they begin?
Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to identify the suspect. They're going to try to determine by evaluating their social media, their communications, their interactions with other people that they are associates with, whether this was an act of a lone offender or whether it was part of a broader conspiracy. They're also going to be looking for any type of follow-on events. Part of the danger in a situation like this is that people may view this as either an act to be replicated or may seek to respond. So law enforcement very quickly across the country, quite frankly, is going to be looking at trying to prevent any residual events following this incident.
John, thank you very much. And we do know that the FBI is joining the Secret Service in this investigation. Let's go back to Martha Raddatz. Martha, you've been talking to sources, also military sources, and you have some new information, what you're learning about the weapon.
Well, we know from our own reporting from Aaron Katursky and others here at ABC that they believe it was an AR-15 and that the shooter got off 8 rounds. Talking to a military source who said it is the same thing as an M4, which they use in the military. We train to shoot at our ranges out to 300 meters without optics or a scope. A good shooter can easily shoot further with an optic. That's about 330 yards. And it's believed the shooter was 200 to 300 yards out. This military officer said the 300 yards is definitely in range, not an easy shot, but 100% in range. And this is very sobering wit. He said, I am surprised he didn't hit him. We do know that his ear was grazed and not certain exactly how that happened at this point, although Donald Trump said he believed it was a bullet going by him. But I am surprised he didn't hit him. This military officer also says that it was likely, given the sounds he has been listening to all day on that tape that we've been playing and that Donald Trump himself heard and everybody there who was there, that it was far away, but that perhaps the shooter tried one shot, missed, and then got off several very rapidly just into the crowd.
Yeah, 200 to 300 yards away, and that shooter on top of a roof. And Martha, to your point, it is worth emphasizing that. I mean, former President Trump says that he heard the bullet whizzing by and that it pierced the top of his ear, literally inches away from taking his life.
It certainly would have been if it in fact is proven to be a bullet that went right by his ear. Millimeters. And, you know, the way you turn your head or you don't turn your head. And again, that we have to emphasize this was clearly in range for a weapon like that, whether the shooter had a scope, whether the shooter did not have a scope. Even without a scope, this military officer says you can take someone out at that range. Again, the dangers of these kinds of events with people way outside of the event itself, way outside security, and that is something the Secret Service is going to have to look at, local law enforcement as well, how this person got on that roof undetected by police or anyone else carrying a rifle up there, carrying an AR-15.
And again, we still don't have information about the threat itself, the motive, who the shooter was. We haven't even been told by law enforcement, you know, whether they think the threat is over. So still a lot more information to come. Martha, thank you so much. We appreciate it as always. And throughout the evening here, we've been speaking with many other eyewitnesses. You heard from Rachel earlier. We spoke to some live on the air who were at the rally describing how the former president had just started to speak and then the shots rang out.
What you saw and what you heard. You said that you heard the popping sounds and you got down?
Sounds. At first you think like maybe firecrackers, but it continued, and then somebody yelled, get down. We got down, and we huddled and we started praying. And we just started praying, and thank God, a little while later, we got up. When we saw other people get up, we saw Trump get up, raise his fist like I'm okay, and we kept praying.
I felt really bad. I'm worried about our grandchildren. What kind of life are they going to have if this goes on, if people don't have the right to say what they want?
You told me that you were near the very front. You weren't very far.
No, we were like from here to where that thing is.
And you got down. You said you got down immediately?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody yelled, "Get down!" My daughter-in-law, Lisa, she said for us to hurry up and get down.
Well, I mean, I saw all the Secret Service kind of cover Trump. They did a really good job about that, making sure he was protected, telling everyone to get down. So I think they did take a good care of making sure everyone was understanding what was going on and being serious, but not freaking everybody out.
What was your initial reaction when you heard those popping noises?
To get down. Yeah. So I actually my boyfriend pushed me on the ground and went on top of me, which was really nice. But I think a lot of people were a little too shocked to understand what was going on originally, for sure. But I think everyone listened pretty well, and it was handled pretty well.
Did you see some of that commotion that was playing out on the other side of the bleacher where we saw law enforcement agents sort of swarm around another individual, or did you ultimately just rush out?
No, we were there for a minute because they did tell us to go back down again just in case. I think that was good because it helped calm people down. But I think one of the stands that I was next to, they did carry out a man, and there was another one that might have been injured. I'm not 100% sure, but definitely one at least. And on the other stand on the other side, because I was on the right, on the left, there were a bunch of men in uniform surrounding someone. So that was interesting to see.
You said that you were very impressed by the speed in which Secret Service was able to get on that stage within seconds of all of us hearing those popping sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a great job. I definitely felt protected in the situation. The sniper was on it, watching on guard. Everyone on the scene did a great job. I mean, of course it was nerve-wracking in the moment, but I never felt like I was in danger, which was cool. They were on the president, which I'm very thankful of, and they did a great job protecting him and getting him out as quick as possible. He is doing good, which is good. Yeah.
I'm the Republican nominee for the Senate in Pennsylvania. I was in the front row, and President Trump had just announced me and said he was going to have me come up on the stage, and said, well, wait a minute. And then there were a number of shots, I think probably 7 or 8 shots. It wasn't clear whether they would come from one place or 2 places, at least I couldn't tell. And immediately there was a swarm of Secret Service officers that, got on top of and knocked down President Trump and got on top of him. And then he stood back up, and you sort of saw this fist come out, sort of defiant that it looked like he was okay, but you couldn't tell for sure. It looked like there was some blood, but it wasn't obvious. And then the entire crowd went to the ground because we weren't sure whether the shots were done. And then unfortunately, over my shoulder, someone had clearly been hit. I was on the ground, and up in the bleachers, probably 3 or 4 bleachers behind me, it looked like there was a man who was severely injured. There was a lot of blood, and his people around him were trying to administer first aid. And then some police officers came in and carried him out, and presumably took him to get first aid. That's really all I could see. I don't know if there were other people injured, and I don't know if there was anybody apprehended, because as you might imagine, once that happened, the crowd was very chaotic, and it was very hard to know what was going on. And we're still there at the rally, just sitting trying to get out because the traffic is so backed up.
And Dave, your account seems to confirm some of this reporting that we're getting about a shooter and potential bystanders who were hurt. Just talk more about your initial reaction. I mean, seeing this, you're running for Senate in the state of Pennsylvania. You're about to walk up on the stage. You're getting introduced by the former president, and then you hear these shots ring out and the chaos in the crowd. What was going through your mind in that moment?
Well, it takes a minute to process. People started to panic all around. You could feel, people were very scared, and so everybody just dropped to the ground. And it felt very obvious that the president was under assault, and very much at risk. And it wasn't clear that he was okay to begin with. And then once it started to sink in, you're thinking, are there still shooters out there? Are they going to target other people? And, it's just like these, situations. I was in the military previously. You realize over time that the facts start to come together. So you got to be careful not to draw too many conclusions early on. But I think what we all felt was a sense of, oh my Lord, everybody's in danger because there's clearly a shooter, at least one shooter in the crowd, and maybe more. And really, I think scary for everybody who was there, and shocking, even more than scary, just shocking, because you were in the middle of this rally and it was kind of fun and people were enthusiastic and all of a sudden it was turned upside down.
What does this say to you about our state of division and the politics in this country right now?
Well, I don't want to draw any conclusions before I know more about it, but obviously it's if you're a public official, if you're a presidential candidate, and your safety's at risk, that's scary for all of us, no matter what party you're in. And so I think it's a moment to take stock. And you had 15,000. It seemed it was a huge crowd. I was told by the law enforcement people there are 15,000 people who were enthusiastically supporting their candidate, and all of a sudden, the former president, his life is at risk, and what were peaceful people in the audience are wounded, potentially, fatally. I mean, that's unacceptable, and it's not a matter of party. That's just unacceptable in our great country.
I do want to go to Leonard Verdetto, who is an eyewitness who was there at the rally today. He's joining us now on the phone. Leonard, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, Leonard. We're so grateful that you are okay. Can you just walk us through what happened and what you saw?
Sure, absolutely. So everybody was excited to see the former president coming out. We were all, excited, and we were all happy. We were all joyful. We were all there for each other. And then the former president was giving his speech. Then moments later, there was some, popping sounds that were going off. So about maybe 6 or 7 to 8 shots that were happening. None of us really registered at the time, but then all people were saying, "Get down, get down." Even I was saying, "Get down." Other people were saying, "Get down" as well. And, we were all praying. We were praying to Yeshua, the Lord Jesus, and we were praying to him to keep us safe, keep us protected. But unfortunately, what happened was, someone did get shot. What I do hear is that I think 2 people did get shot, that to the best of my knowledge. And I believe that, the former president, which I'm glad he is safe. So.
Now, Leonard, and again, we don't have all these things confirmed yet, so this is your perspective here. But when you say that you believe that 2 people were shot, could you actually see people, potential victims?
What I seen, and to the best of my knowledge, sir, is that and again, I was hearing it from other news sources as well. But what that I seen, when I first seen there was blood on a couple of people. Someone was shot just like about 5 feet right behind us, to be honest with you. So we were that close. And thank God we weren't shot either.
And where were you located? We're looking at the video right now. This is the former president being brought back to his feet after those shots were fired. Were you on the stands behind Donald Trump, or were you in front of him?
If you're looking exactly at him, we'd be on the left side, actually. We were the left side of the other stands where you've seen those big TVs.
So the left side of the stands facing the president, or behind the former president?
Facing the president. We were more on the side, looking on the side of the president, so facing him.
And Leonard, let me just ask you too. Obviously, you go to we've been talking about this, the division in this country, the polarization. But here you are. Obviously, you're exercising your right to support whichever politician you believe in. And you go to an event like this, you don't expect there to be violence. What's in your heart right now?
Well, what's in the heart right now is I'm encouraging the American people to pray to Lord Jesus, because right now our country's divided.
Again, those words from some of the witnesses that we heard from throughout the hours this evening who were there inside this venue in Butler, Pennsylvania. The event was supposed to be sort of a precursor for the big week at the Republican National Convention. Former President Donald Trump had been hinting that he was going to announce his running mate in the coming days. So all eyes were on this event when the gunfire rang out. And then those terrifying moments and these images you continue to see here with the former president being escorted off the stage with the blood trickling down the right side of his face. The former president in a statement, once again, saying that he was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of his right ear, and he immediately knew that something was wrong when he heard the whizzing sounds and the shots. Some of our other reporters getting information from law enforcement that they now confirm that the shooter fired as many as 8 rounds from an AR-style rifle while perched on a rooftop adjacent to the venue. The shooter was 200 to 300 yards away at the time of the gunfire, and that shooter was shot and killed by the U.S. Secret Service. We know at least one spectator, possibly 2, were shot and killed.
Yeah.
One of them we know was confirmed dead. Another one sustained serious injuries. We're still waiting to get more information on that. Law enforcement also unable to tell us at this time what the motivation was, who the shooter was, whether it was a man or a woman, and whether the threat fully has been neutralized, or whether it was a lone actor. So still so much information that we need to learn throughout the course of the evening and in the coming days. Well, let's go back to our entire team who've been with us on the air for several hours now. John Carl because that was supposed to be the location for all the news this week at the Republican National Convention. John, you've been talking to Republican sources there. In fact, you were in an interview when reports of these shots first came out.
I'm trying to help you out here. Trump
I wasn't in a formal interview, but I was standing on the floor of the convention with the person who was running this convention, Michael Whatley, the chairman of the Republican National Committee. We were just, talking about the big week's plans ahead, speculating on when Trump will actually make the announcement of his running mate when this news broke. And as you can imagine, shockwaves throughout the hall. Nobody really had any idea yet what had happened, other than those initial reports and that shocking live video. He took a call from one of his aides and was whisked off the floor to try to figure out what was going on. This has effectively put a freeze on the campaign, at least for the moment. And it's not just here in Milwaukee, where although the convention is starting on Monday, you are already seeing Republicans from across the country gather here. In fact, there was supposed to be a big welcome reception tonight. As you can imagine, that has been canceled. All events, the pre-convention events, have been canceled. Over on the Democratic side, we've heard from the Biden campaign that they...
Okay, guys, I'm going to be ending this stream here. Hopefully next time we can get some more people come on and talk about Mormonism stuff. It's very, very shocking to see what's happening to our country, and I'm certainly glad that Donald Trump is okay. I'm sure that this is going to change the calculus for the election, to be sure. I think that this is going to help Donald Trump in a significant manner. I think he's going to gain votes from this. I think this humanized him. I think he's going to be able to fundraise off of this. I think it's going to show his resilience. I think he's going to say that it shows his courage. And it's going to show everything that Donald Trump is about, which is defiance, and that people, it feeds into his persecution complex. So the fact that people want to get him down, I think his supporters are going to rally around this point and say that, there's evildoers out there who want to ruin our country. Therefore, we need to rally around Donald. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to have an impact on this election. Gene, thanks for dropping by Latter-day Digest. Like, share, and subscribe. Really appreciate that. Anybody who next for your live stream, come on. Let's talk about anything Mormon related. We kind of got derailed here. We do have a new episode of the Mormon News Roundup that is coming out very, very shortly here. I'll give you a quick sneak peek. I did put together, it's kind of interesting, put together a video here just recently here of the similarities between Donald Trump and Joseph Smith. I actually put together this video right here, which says the top 15, you can't see that very well. Let me see if I can blow that up. It says the top 15 similarities between Joseph Smith and Donald Trump. It's got a picture of here of Joseph Smith wearing the "Make America Great Again" cap. I will be releasing that video sometime soon. It is ready to go, by the way, but really appreciate everybody coming on. Thanks so much. Remember, no unhallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing. So long.